Hello and welcome to the Night Owl Philanthropy podcast, What's Your Why? I'm your host, Dean Jones, and in this series I ask charity leaders and change makers to tell us about their why, the purpose, experiences and values that drive their work. Each episode goes beyond campaigns and job titles to uncover the real stories and motivations behind social impact leadership, exploring what it takes to stay resilient, purposeful and compassionate in a demanding sector. Today, we're leaning into those themes through sleep deprivation, family wellbeing, and health equity. And I'm delighted to welcome Vicki Beavers, founder and CEO of the Sleep Charity, leading vital support, training, and advocacy for children, families, workplaces, and professionals battling chronic sleep challenges across the UK. Vicki, thank you so much for joining me. And let's begin, as always, with that key question. What's your why? What's at the heart of your work in this particular area of the charity sector?
It's supporting people's well-being. So the real passion that I've got is being able to share with people the importance of sleep and helping them to get that good quality, adequate sleep so that they can be the very best versions of themselves.
That's great. Thank you. And last night, because I knew this interview was coming up, I got myself off to bed at 9 o'clock. And I woke up this morning, and I usually get up quite early. I got up about 10 to 6. And I would say that as a result of getting that early night, I felt 10% better, I think, if not more, than I would normally. So I recognize, even from that one tiny experiment, there's a lot of value in what you're saying. But I'm not somebody that suffers greatly from sleep deprivation, but I do recognize the benefits of sleep. So I'm really, really interested in what more you have to say about the subject. So when someone asks what you actually do, how do you normally introduce yourself and the Sleep Charity?
So it depends who's asking, really, because we do so many different things. We've got services for children and families. We've got services for adults. We also do research around sleep. We do campaigning to try to raise awareness at a national level about the importance of sleep, and to get a national sleep strategy is what we really want to do. So it kind of depends who's asking me which way I sort of deliver that. But if I'm doing just a general overview, then I say that we empower the nation to sleep better. And we do that by providing support, one-to-one support at times, a national sleep helpline, information that's evidence-based about sleep, and by offering training as well to professionals so that they can share our information at scale.
That's great. Thank you. So are you able to take me back into your own personal situation? What did sleep look like for you growing up? Were you one of those kids who slept like a log, or were there always signs that this would become such a big part of your life?
I think, to be honest, my mum's quite outraged that I do this because
Okay.
I'm an only child, she claims, because I never slept and I broke my parents, whereas I would rather say it was because they created perfection first time round.
Right.
But apparently I never slept, and my mum did everything that she knew or thought would help. So I remember there being lots of, you can't have dilute orange juice because it's the E numbers that are causing you not to sleep. And then she decided that she was going to wear me out. So she took me for dancing lessons 5 nights a week. And the outcome was that I ended up dancing in the England team, but I still didn't sleep. Yeah. So sleep was a challenge for my mum, but not particularly for me, I would say, because I was perfectly happy being awake.
Right.
And later in life, I got to get diagnosed with ADHD. So there's the answer for the sleep issues. But as I got older, had a family of my own, this is when sort of the sleep charity the ideas started to form, because in the year 2000, I had my first son and
Right.
he basically didn't sleep. So my background before I set the charity up was in teaching. So I was a special needs teacher.
Okay.
I went back to work very quickly after having my son. So I knew it was going to be tough, but I didn't realise how tough. And we got to him being about 2 years old, I think, and I'd asked for help from the GP, who basically told me babies, children don't sleep. So, I mean, the exact words used to me were, you shouldn't have had a child if if you wanted sleep. And I was
Mm,
prescribed antidepressants.
mm,
And looking back, I probably was depressed, but the
mm,
depression was caused by the chronic exhaustion, the chronic sleep deprivation that I was
mhm,
suffering.
mhm.
The health visitor gave me a book, which was essentially controlled crying, so leave him to cry it out, which
Right.
didn't sit comfortably with me, but I was like, these are the experts, I'll do whatever. And I
Mhm.
tried it for one night only. It was horrific. It just upset him, it upset me. It's just, yeah, could not do that at all. And to cut a long story short, I ended up in hospital, and my immune system basically attacked my brain. So I started with pins and needles, falling down, lost my reflexes. And what I know now is that when we're sleep deprived, it impacts on our immune system.
Mhm.
So I suspect, strongly that that illness that I got, which they think was Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is potentially life-threatening,
Could you say
came
that
about.
syndrome name again for me,
Yeah,
Vicky?
it's
Sorry.
Guillain-Barré syndrome, it's called.
Guillain-Barré syndrome. Okay.
So, that came about, I believe, because I was so tired and there was no support. And when I came out of hospital after several weeks, he still wasn't sleeping.
Mhm,
So it was the same cycle. And I ended up leaving teaching because I couldn't cope. I
mhm.
was just too exhausted. And I got a job with Scope, the disability charity. And
Mm.
that's when I heard that they had something called a sleep practitioner. I was like, What's one of those?
Alright.
I think I
Mhm.
need to meet these." There were two, I think, at that point in the country, in England. Uh,
And what year was this, Vicky?
that would have been around about 2005, 6, I reckon,
Okay,
something like
so a
that.
little while ago. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I found out about it and realised that actually what they were doing was quite similar to the behavioural work that I was doing in the daytime with children. So I'd been viewing my son's sleep issues as a medical thing that needed fixing with medication or whatever, but
Mhm,
actually it was behaviour. And once I got some sleep education, I could go, oh, that's why, that's why, that's why. And I could start to find the strategies that I was going to put in place to address it. And that for me was the big light bulb moment of this is quite obvious.
mm.
And when I did it, it took a couple of weeks and he slept through the night and it was life changing for me. It was terrifying. I didn't go in. I'm like, well, why is he not calling out? What's happened? But it was life changing because I got my sleep back. And then I just wanted to help other people, get some sleep into their lives. So it was literally people would just get in touch and go, I hear you know a bit about sleep. Can you help my friend? And yeah, that's where the journey kind of started.
Right, and how old's your son now, if you don't mind me asking?
No, not at all. He's got to be 26 this year.
Wow, yeah. And does he sleep well now?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, and interestingly, he's a social worker. He shares the sleep
Ah,
charity information far and wide as
right.
well.
Great. Good to hear. So thank you. You've been really open about your own experience of severe sleep deprivation in that case and your ADHD diagnosis. What would you say was, I mean, I'm assuming the hardest moment was going into hospital. Was that the hardest moment for you?
No, no, I was really relieved, and that sounds
Okay.
ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
I see what
remember,
you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, I remember thinking on the way to hospital because the GP, it was the same GP actually that I saw, and he said you
Hmm.
need to get to hospital, you need to get there now.
Hmm.
And I remember the drive to hospital thinking, I'll be able to get a bit of sleep, won't I? This will be quite nice. And then when I got into hospital, obviously hospitals are a terrible place for sleep because
Yeah.
you know, you just get to sleep and somebody comes and decides to do your blood pressure or
Hmm.
check on you or give you medication. There's lights on, there's people speaking
Yeah.
all night. So I didn't get the sleep that I was hoping for. But at that point, no, that wasn't the hardest bit. I think it was probably the months leading up to that and trying
Okay.
to be a new parent, trying to do a challenging job. A lot of the work I did was with children with very severe behavioural issues.
Okay.
Driving down the motorway to work to do that and the whole
Hmm.
tiredness, and it was, yeah, that was a really, really dark time for me.
I always think it's quite strange with sleep that we put ourselves in such a vulnerable state by being asleep. We're semi-conscious. Well, not conscious at all in most cases. Have no idea what's going around us. In evolutionary terms, when we didn't have bricks and mortar around us or doors that we could lock, you're really putting yourself in a vulnerable position. So on that basis, what is the point of sleep? Why do we sleep? And what do people most misunderstand about the science behind sleep? Because even, animals sleep as well. Any kind of living being generally sleeps. What's the point of it all?
Yeah, so it is absolutely essential for us to be healthy and well. There's all sorts that happens while we're asleep that's essential. So things like hormones are released
Hmm.
that manage appetite, as an example.
Hmm.
We also have like a big flush out of our brains so that toxins can like be removed during the night. There's links to our cognitive ability and being able to
Hmm.
remember things better, etc. Emotional regulation, all sorts is going on during the night that are vital. So it's this real restorative sort of phase of our lives that we absolutely need and we simply cannot live without. It's so, so important.
Okay. And what point did your sort of personal struggle, the struggle you've described just now with sleep, shift from something you were enduring to something you realised, well, actually, I can now I know what I know. I can help others. Was there a particular moment or conversation where it switched from what you were enduring to something that you could turn into something you can help other people with?
I think it happened completely by accident. So I just became known in my circle of friends for knowing things about sleep and people were having babies. So it was kind of word of mouth. And as more people started to get in touch, I was spending most evenings after work talking to people about sleep. So that's kind of where it built from. And then I remember one day thinking, actually, I'm going to set a charity up to do this. And I was so, so naive.
Hmm.
Um, I had got no understanding about what that really involved.
Hmm.
So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to set a charity up because charities help people and you get money if you're a charity and I'll be able to help more people. And it was as simple as that, my thought process.
Mm.
And obviously the reality was very different. So that was back in 2012 when I had that initial thought of this is what
Okay.
I'm going to do.
And I think I've heard quite a few stories where people haven't necessarily been aware of what it takes to run a charity or all sorts of other ventures actually. But actually, I think it's a case in point where ignorance is bliss, because if you did know, you probably wouldn't have done it. And then how many people would you have gone on to help without a charity, without that kind of a degree of ignorance? But obviously it was a good thing because you're still here now. We're 2026. That was 2020. That was 2012. So it was obviously from what we'll find out. There's more questions to ask. It was obviously the right thing to do. So for someone hearing about your work for the first time, can you describe the different elements of the sleep charity and what it does?
Yeah, so we've got the information and support. Comes in various different forms, really. So we've got a website that's full of downloadable information, and we've also got like specific hubs. So we've got a teen sleep hub, for example. So during COVID, we worked with young people to design that, and there's like
Okay.
a downloadable ebook that's specifically for teenagers because they have huge sleep issues.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of content on there.
Hmm.
And we've got a volunteer advisory board who input into all of the content as well, because sleep's not regulated. So there's a lot of misinformation about sleep around. And we
Hmm.
want to make sure that the information that people get from us is like the best,
Mm.
so they can feel really confident in what they're getting.
Mm.
So, as well as the information, we've got podcasts. So, we have done
Hmm.
a few podcasts. The first one was ADHD and sleep, and we've done several since then.
Mm,
Because I think it's important that we reach people in different ways. You know, some people like to read the information, others much
mm,
prefer to listen to it. So it's
mm,
like thinking about all the different ways we can make our work accessible.
mhm,
We've got a national sleep helpline, which is something that I was really keen to be able to offer. And it
mhm,
took a lot of years to be able to get the funding to be able to put that in place.
mm,
So we've got sleep practitioners on the helpline,
mm,
and we know we're not doing enough still because
mhm.
the demand is so high. I mean, 40% of the nation have got a sleep problem at some point.
40%.
Yeah, 40%, yeah. So there's a big demand, and we've got limited resources, but yeah, there's the helpline there now.
Mm,
And then we have projects on the go, depending on funding again. It's so
mm,
frustrating because everything's dependent on being able to pay people to deliver the support.
of
But for
course.
example, in Doncaster and North Yorkshire, and Barnsley at the moment, we've got
Mhm,
children's services. So families in those areas can access like one-to-one support from our sleep practitioners.
mhm,
We've also got some support around adults in certain areas. So again, it is very much like depending what we've got. So across Lincolnshire, for example, we've got adult
mm,
with a project. So there's like the information arm, and then
mhm,
there's the training. Um,
mhm,
so the training's really important because quite often practitioners don't get any sleep training. So
mm,
when I look back at the GP who sort of said to me, "You're depressed," actually, he may well have not had any
mm,
training around sleep, even though sleep issues tend to be one of the most common thing that patients appear in front of the doctor around. So
mm,
we wanted to address that. So we've got a whole range of training packages now, from sleep practitioner training for people who want to deliver the one-to-one support in their own areas,
mhm,
to things like train the trainer, workshops for family hub workers so that they can put on 5-week programs in the local communities,
mm.
to CBTI training, which is it's CBT, and the I is for insomnia.
Can you, for those that might not know, can you explain that CBT, what that the abbreviation actually
Yeah.
stands for?
So
Yeah.
it's cognitive behavior therapy. So it's quite often used with people, for example, in counselling, that type of
Yeah.
scenario. But the I bit stands for insomnia. And
Mm,
in the UK, there is Professor Jason Ellis, who's just the genius around CBTI.
mm,
And he delivers the training on our behalf. So we're very
mhm,
fortunate that we are now able to train practitioners to be able to deliver CBTI, because it's the gold standard treatment for insomnia, but
right.
try getting it on the NHS and
Mm,
it's a postcode lottery. So
mm.
this is an area that we're wanting to develop more because we know that it can be really effective.
And you always quite rightly, I think, say that sleep is a vital component of health and well-being. You touched on doctors and there are other professionals as well. Well, what do you wish more doctors, teachers, parents, or just regular people really understood about that connection between sleep and health and well-being?
I think it's the basic sleep education. So we don't get taught about sleep in school, or I certainly
Mm,
never did. Uh,
mm,
and once you start to look at the impact of sleep deprivation, it's horrifying.
mm,
And I think if looking at it, say, through the lens of a teacher, for example,
mhm,
I never considered that the children in my class were sleep deprived, but the majority probably were, because the stats are even more shocking for children who've got special educational needs. It's over
right,
80% have got sleep
right.
issues. So I never even thought about that as an element. I was trying to manage the behavior, but actually,
Mhm,
if they were sleep deprived, then this is a symptom of the sleep deprivation. So if we can
mhm,
improve the sleep, we're going to improve the behavior, because none of us are at our best when we're sleep deprived. We're going to improve the parent's capacity to be able to parent and cope.
mm,
And schools are very into attendance and attainment,
mhm,
and there's lots of stats around that. Well, actually, if we get the children sleeping better, they're going to be attending more because they're not going to
mm,
be getting sick as much, they're not going to be late. And the retainment is going to go up because we know that we can't concentrate when we're sleep deprived.
Mm,
We can't remember things, it's so obvious.
mm,
Yet there's no funding around this.
mm.
So it really frustrates me because it's the same with like medical issues as well. So I'll see things like funding around obesity, for example.
Yeah.
And I said earlier that actually, hormones are released during like the deep sleep, and that helps with appetite and
Yeah, that's
regulations.
amazing. I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
Yeah. So we know if we can get people to have good quality, adequate sleep, it can help with these things. But instead, we're
Mm,
missing this out again, and we're
mm,
throwing other things at it, like sticking plasters. Well, let's go back to the basics and look at sleep. Let's look at diet, nutrition, exercise. Let's get these really firmly in place, and then
mm,
see where we are. Um,
mhm,
that's what I would like. Yeah, that's the sort of the vision. That's where I feel like we need to go. Um, because it's just so fundamental. It's the scaffolding
mm.
that holds us together.
Yeah, absolutely. When families do come to you, what are the most common patterns you see, particularly with children and teenagers who just aren't sleeping? And there are lots of reasons why they aren't sleeping, which we'll come on to in a little while. But what are the most common patterns you're seeing?
I think with the younger children, it's that they need somebody with them at the start of the
Hmm.
night, and the
Okay.
parents will do that. And then the parents will sneak out, and the child will wake constantly during the night. And that's because the parent has become what we call a sleep association.
Okay.
So they can't sleep without them.
Hmm.
And it's almost like we accept it at the start of the night, but then when they wake up, 'cause we sleep in cycles and we come to these points of partial awakening. And if
Mm,
everything's the same as when we went to sleep, we'll just maybe turn over and go back to sleep. But if
mm,
something's changed, like someone's disappeared, more likely
mm,
to waken fully and then need that person back to get back to
mm,
sleep. So
hmm,
that's a real common one that we see with like the younger children.
hmm.
With the teenagers, it's the circadian rhythm, so the body clock.
Yeah.
They go through a significant change during adolescence, which
Hmm.
means that they don't release the melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, until
Hmm.
much later. So most teens turn into night owls, and
Mm,
they are genuinely not wanting to go to sleep till like 2 a.m. And
hmm.
what have we done in this country? We've brought school times to sort of 8 o'clock, 8:30. So we're working completely against like
Mm,
the circadian rhythm of teenagers. So they're arriving to school at what will be equivalent to us of about 3 a.m. in the morning. And we're
mm.
expecting them to do, a full day's work. And then we're sending them home just as they're waking up. It's just madness.
So what would you do then to change that? Would you suggest that school starts sort of later in the day and goes on into the evening? Would that work for
Well,
teenagers?
yeah, it's a tricky one because ideally,
Mm,
yeah, we need to be working with the body clocks and where they are. But
mm,
realistically, it'd be really tough to change that because of
yeah,
teachers' working patterns, because of parents, etc.
yeah.
There are things we can do using a behavioural approach to support teenagers' body clocks, which is exactly the work that we do. So it
Mm,
might be that we have to gradually move the sleep time back
mhm,
by, say, 15 minutes a night, because
mhm,
something that's really important that people often don't understand is that you can't force sleep.
mhm,
So if a teenager is not tired at 10 o'clock at night, they
mhm,
can't go to sleep because you can't control it. So I ask people to think about sleep like a battery. So
mhm,
when you wake up in the morning, your battery should be full. Well, a lot of
mm,
teenagers' batteries aren't full because they've not had enough
mm,
sleep.
mhm,
And then as you go through the day, your battery sort of depletes. And you might want a little afternoon nap, which is actually biologically sort of typical, especially after lunch. And that'll top your battery
I
up
can
a
agree
little
with
bit.
that.
Yes. I'm a big favour of a nana nap.
Yeah.
If you have a nap that's too long, your battery will be topped up a bit too much, so it'll delay your
Mm,
bedtime. And then when you get in bed, your battery should be flat so that actually sleep can come. And if it's not
mm,
flat, you're not going to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of the teenagers are sort of going home at 2, 3 o'clock, having the nap, which
Mm-hmm.
goes on, and then that sort of extends the problem because
Mm-hmm.
they're then up again till 2, having to get up, exhausted. So we're not getting this sleep drive right, but we
Mm-hmm.
can do it by gradually moving things around.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we use light boxes as well with teenagers
Okay.
because light and dark plays a really important part in producing and suppressing the melatonin. So
Mm-hmm.
a bright light in the morning can help them to feel more wide awake, and then trying to use darkness at night to encourage the melatonin to be produced naturally.
So that's all really interesting. And how much of it does come down to sort of knowledge and habits that people can change versus the wider pressures of modern life? Now, you talked about light boxes. I've got a light box and it's my mobile phone. And I know that if I look at that, then that's going to affect whether or not I'm awake or asleep, or it'll make me more awake if I'm staring at that too long before I go to bed. Is that right? Or is that a myth? Or is there something in that?
Bit of both, really. I
Is
mean,
there? Right.
if
Okay.
you'd have asked me that 5 years ago, I would have gone, "You cannot look at your phone at night. Like, it's terrible,
Okay.
and it's
It's really
blue light."
interesting.
And yeah, but there's been a lot more research recently that suggests that it's probably not as harmful as we thought. Some
Okay.
research suggests it's not doing anything at all.
Mm,
What I would say is that sometimes people get overstimulated by the phones, so it may not be anything to do with the light. It may be that you look at the news and then it's like, ooh, it's going on in your mind even though you've put your phone down.
mhm,
Or it might be that you're on social media, and I'm speaking about myself here. And then
mm.
you can't stop scrolling, and yeah, you get time blind because you're just enjoying whatever it is that you're watching and not
Yeah.
actually protecting your sleep. So
Mm,
phones are best away from the bedroom, but for some people that causes them feelings of anxiety.
mm,
They want the phone there for whatever reason. So I would say if it's causing people to be anxious not having the phone, then that's counterproductive as well, because
mm,
you can't fall asleep if you're feeling anxious.
mm,
So it's being aware that it may not be helpful, and it's being aware about how you use your phone.
mhm,
But also, I think the key message is we're all individuals and our sleep is very individual. So
mm,
if you try to follow 10 top tips, they're not going to work.
mm.
It's understanding about sleep and then choosing the things that you think, "Oh, actually, yeah, that could be an issue. I could change that quite easily," and just experimenting with it.
So very much a sort of individualized process of addressing those different things that are occurring. And
Yeah.
so when you've identified that individual and their specific needs, what does that family get when their child won't sleep? What sort of things will you do? Is it direct intervention with those individuals in some cases, or is that just too much of an ask for one charity to do all of that for the whole 40% of the population? How do you can you work with families and individuals in some cases?
Yeah, so again, when we get funded, so in North Yorkshire, we're funded by the NHS to deliver
Yeah,
one-to-one support. We've just
right.
done some work exactly the same in Alderhay at Liverpool. So what families get is a sleep practitioner for 12 weeks. It used to be
Mhm,
6 weeks, but since the pandemic, the sleep issues have got a lot more complex in children. We've still
mhm,
got children who are out of school because they're asleep during the daytime, for example. So what they get is a sleep practitioner who will do an assessment with the family. So that generally lasts about an hour, where we do an awful lot of listening because
mm,
people want to talk about the sleep. They want to be heard.
mm,
And usually they've not had the experience of someone just listening. Because and this used to happen to me. If I mentioned that my son had got sleep issues, people used to go either, "Oh, mine has too, it's just how it is,"
mhm,
or, "Have you tried some warm milk and lavender in the bath?" And it's just so irritating.
mhm,
So just to be heard is really powerful, and while we are listening, we are starting to identify potential reasons. And they could be to do with diet, they could be to do with the bedroom environment, They could be to do with so many different elements, pain, medication that they may be on. And this is sort of what you're clocking all the time as they're speaking. And then it's time to do the sleep education bit where we'll talk about, what happens when we go to sleep, the different sleep cycles. And I love this bit because this is when you can see the light bulb moments and they go, oh, well, that might be why they're waking up. Well, it could be, yeah. So they start to see
Mm,
it for themselves
mm,
and understand it. And therefore, when you start to suggest strategies, they're already like, yeah, that's exactly what we need to do. Whereas
mm,
possibly at the start of the call, a lot of the families are very much, I've tried everything. Nothing's going to work.
mm,
I don't really know why I've come because you can't tell me anything that I've not already tried, which
mm,
is possibly true as well. But what we do is we unpick it and we then choose the strategies that match the problem. Whereas
mhm,
what generally happens with sleep is everyone throws strategies at it and then go, it's not working.
mm,
Well, yeah, because you're throwing the wrong strategies at it
mhm,
and probably not trying it for long enough. So
mhm,
the other really terrible message we have to give is sometimes it gets a lot worse before it gets better because you put these
mm,
strategies in place and children
mm,
resist the change
mhm,
and they up the ante. And that's hard at night time when you're tired. So we have to
mm,
coach families along. We have to be there for them and tweak the plan if necessary.
mm.
But a lot of it is actually telling them they're doing really well. That, yeah, we know
Mhm.
this is tough, but look how bad it was 3 weeks ago. You are making progress. So there's lots of that.
Yeah, and there's a big difference between an adult who wants to change their sleeping pattern and sleep routine, and then a child or a teenager who's fighting against somebody wanting them to do that. And it presents a completely different dynamic to those different groups. I think I have this relationship with sleep which wasn't always positive, but I actually have what I describe as a good relationship with sleep. I want to go to bed and have a good night's sleep. And I think that makes a big difference because I don't see sleep as an enemy, which sometimes it turns into for some people, doesn't it? Sleep's just related to so many negative conversations and arguments and disputes, and then before it becomes something much bigger than it is. So that's really interesting. I suspect some people hear the word sleep charity and think it sounds, well, a bit niche or sleep charity. What's that? What's a sleep charity for? How do you respond when people underestimate the scale of what you do? And I don't, by the way, I don't underestimate it at all, which is the main reason I wanted to speak to you today. But yeah, how do you respond to people who have that view on things?
I think there's been a massive change, to be honest, Dean, over the last few
Mm.
years. So when when I first used to tell people, because it was called the Children's Sleep Charity, and we went through a rebrand in 2019. But when I first used to tell people, I used to go, Children's Sweet Charity. No, sleep. And I used to actually go, sleep, sleep, because they just couldn't comprehend that somebody would even be doing something like that.
Mm,
Whereas now, when I say the sleep charity, it's almost like there is some recognition that we've got a
mm,
problem.
mm,
And I think what I get more than anything is curiosity from
mhm.
people as to what we do, because actually they always know somebody who could use our service in some way. So sometimes it's really tempting to just say something completely different when they ask me what I do for a living, because you're at a party or something, you get everyone's sleep problems, and it's
Yeah.
not today. But I think now the tide's really turning and people are starting to talk more about sleep.
Mhm,
It's certainly a lot more in the media. We've done about four, I don't know if it's 4 or 5 campaigns now in House of Commons that's got national media attention as well. I think it was last year, we got 12 minutes on BBC Breakfast News, which is huge. So I think people are more interested in it.
mm,
The difficulty is it's not very fundable, which is really
mm.
frustrating for us as a charity because the need is so massive and we know that we can fulfill it.
Can you explain, Vicky, when something isn't very fundable? What can you just elaborate on that? What does that mean when something isn't fundable?
Yeah, there's often a presumption that what we offer can be got from the NHS. Uh,
Mm,
and so I think sometimes funders don't see the need in funding our services because
mm,
they just presume the NHS are providing this, and they're
mm,
not, unless they do commission like a specialist service. Uh,
mm,
the vast majority of the country are not able to access sleep support other than sort of medication, which is not, it's not the solution. It's not a long-term solution. Sometimes it is needed in the short term, but actually most of the sleep issues need this sort of behavioural approach that we're able to
mm,
offer. So I think
mm,
there's a presumption that NHS offer it. I also think sometimes there's not the acknowledgement of the devastation sleep issues cause.
mm,
So there's certainly some kind of thoughts around poor parenting at times.
mhm,
Parents often feel very judged because of that. And, you know,
mm,
I will hold my hands up and say that I felt like a really bad parent because I couldn't get my son to sleep.
mm,
I was embarrassed about it. I felt ashamed. It was hard for me to ask for support. And there is still that attitude at times that it's
mm,
just parents who can't be bothered to parent. Well, actually, no. There's lots of complexities that go with the children that we work with. We work with a lot of children who've got diagnoses of things like autism, ADHD, cerebral palsy, that have got lots of complex issues going on in those families.
mm,
People just kind of don't recognise.
mm,
So I think we don't pull at the heartstrings as well because people don't see the actual, I suppose, the impact that we have.
mm.
I'll give you an example. We worked with a family and it was a foster family and the foster placement was breaking down because of sleep. And this child
Right.
was going to have to go back into the system again. And we did some intervention with the family and it worked. Um, and they've adopted him. So
Right.
he found his forever home. But
Right.
if the sleep hadn't been resolved, he was going back into care. Um, but he's got his family. He's been on his first holiday. I mean, that one never fails but to bring a tear to my eye because wow,
That's life changing, isn't it? That
yeah,
and those stories are so important when you're talking about being fundable and being a charity. Yeah.
yeah,
So that.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, just get sort of think focusing on the sleep charity and the charity element. What would you say are the real struggles of running what I describe, and apologies, it's probably not the right word to use, but like a niche charity like this? And where do the most reliable funds come from to keep it sustainable? You talked about this presumption it's something that's provided on the NHS, and in some cases, in very small numbers, that might be the case. But there's obviously a real need out there. And from my perspective, when I'm speaking to charity leaders, in the main, charities are providing something that doesn't exist elsewhere. You can't get it from anywhere else. So charities step in to be that provision. And I'm assuming that's how you would argue the case for your charity. But what are the other struggles that you face as a charity specifically?
I think the lack of expertise around sleep nationally. So as well as being CEO, I lead on the children's sleep, and that involves writing all the materials, writing the training packages, because it is so niche. So
Mm,
even if I wanted to like sort of offer that out to somebody, it's like, where do you offer it? Because
mhm,
there is no official regulated training for sleep practitioners. So as well as doing the CEO role and all those things that running the charity, there's the actual development and the keeping up with the research and the writing of the
mm,
materials. So
mm,
that's a lot of pressure.
mhm.
Trying to keep up to date. That's certainly a big one for us. And I know Lisa, who's the deputy, her specialism is in the adult sleep, and so
Okay.
she does the same, and she leads on the marketing stuff. And it's a small charity,
Mm,
we may be national,
mm.
but actually, we probably look a lot bigger than we are. But we're a very small team that's
You're
trying.
lean, but you're having high impact in this at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. Our reach is massive,
Mm,
but actually, there's only a few people who are sort of like managing things, on a daily basis behind the scenes.
Mm.
Yeah, so that is difficult, and trying to not burn out, I guess, whilst
Mm.
doing that, and the pressure to not look exhausted at times.
Yeah. Does the niche element make it tougher for you? Because it's a competitive landscape, the charity sector, and there's a number of different economic pressures, and it's a crowded space, isn't it? There are, wherever you look. I was over the weekend. I went to the London Landmarks Half Marathon, and there were hundreds of charities doing all sorts of different things. So, does that make it more difficult for you? The fact that there's such a competitive landscape.
I think so, yeah. And I think because we are national, that makes it difficult as well. So, we do some work in Doncaster, which is where the sort of charity developed and grew, just because that's
Hmm.
where I live.
Yeah.
But we don't have this huge presence in the community like we
Mm.
probably once did,
Mm.
because we've been focusing on other areas. And, you asked about like income generation, a
Mm.
big focus has been around developing the training platform. That's been
Mhm.
really important to us because
Mhm.
before COVID, sort of 80% of our income came from delivering face-to-face training, which felt
Mhm.
like quite a secure sort of pot of funding coming in each year, and then it just disappeared.
Right.
So we've had to rebuild that income stream again,
Mm.
and do it online, which
Mhm.
has taken some doing, but also it's great because we're making money literally while we sleep,
Mm.
because people can do the courses. Yeah, so that's been an important part for us as well. So the niche thing, yeah, I mean, it works both ways. It's good
I was
because,
just about to ask. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. What's the flip side of that? There must be some positives in it being a niche charity. Yeah.
yeah, so if we look at it, there's nobody else has got a national sleep helpline. It's the only
Mm.
one.
Mm.
So we do get a lot of sort of media attention. We've been on things like Panorama.
Mm.
Um, yeah, like I said, the BBC, Sky News, like lots of different documentaries that we've been involved in as well, which gives you the
Mm.
profile and the reach.
Mm.
It does always come back again, though, to the funding and the resources to be able to then meet the demand that comes from all of that,
Yeah.
which is the difficult part. But the helpline's certainly addressing some of it, which it was always a concern of mine, that I've created something and people come along and we go, "No funding in your area, can't help."
Mm.
Here's a leaflet. It just felt a little bit tokenistic at times. I wanted to be able
Mm.
to do more, which the helpline is helping us to do.
You touched on this just a moment ago. You've become one of the sort of leading independent voices on sleep in the UK. How did you build that credibility? Was it persistence, partnerships, or something else? Because it does take to get yourself to a point where you're being invited on to documentaries and Panorama and BBC and whatnot. You have to build that credibility, and it has to be authentic. And actually, what you're saying you do, you have to actually deliver. So, how did you do that in practice? That must have taken quite some doing over the years.
Yeah, it has. So I originally found that a lot of doors were closed to me because I don't have a healthcare background.
Mm.
So I was told by a lot of healthcare professionals, "You can't do this because you're not a doctor, nurse, whatever." And I kept saying, "But I don't need to be. It's behavioural." And that's my
Mm.
background. I'm a behaviour
Mm.
specialist. I've got the
Mhm.
qualifications in that, the experience. I remember there was question marks about whether I could attend the British Sleep Society conference because I wasn't a healthcare professional, and I had to
Mhm.
go and speak to the president at the time, which absolutely terrified me looking back.
Mm.
I was just
What does
so,
that pushback do to you? Does it trigger a response where you say, "I will do it," or
yeah.
yeah, I'm assuming it does.
Yeah, 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 it's like, "Watch me."
Yeah.
Um, so it was really, really tough, and I was quite
Mm.
shocked by it. I was shocked
Mm.
that there was there was, like, quite a lot of snobbery around, "You're
Mm.
just you've got an education background,
Mm.
this arena's not for you." I think a real turning point was did some work with Sheffield Children's Hospital, and they've got a wonderful lady there called Professor Heather Elphick, who was one of the few people who actually listened to what I was saying, who was interested in what I was saying,
Hmm.
and who worked really closely with me to develop some of our training materials and then to evaluate the work. So we've got research papers published. Obviously my name was on, and several of those, one in like the British Medical Journal as well, that
Mm.
evidenced how effective the methods are that we use. So on average, children get an additional 2.4 hours sleep a night, which at this point, the prescription drugs were just giving them 15 minutes sleep per night.
Right. Right.
Significant difference between prescription drugs and ours, and
Hmm.
obviously no side effects with ours, and
Mm.
actually cheaper
Yeah.
as well. Um,
Mm.
so that was a real turning point. And I think it's been networking as well. So
Hmm.
just talking to people, forcing those doors open, and then
Hmm.
when opportunities come along, just taking them. And it's frightening sometimes, I found it sometimes difficult to push myself into arenas where I knew that I wasn't welcome,
Mm.
but I go back to the whole reason why I do it. It's
Mm.
because I hear the calls from the families who are desperate.
Mhm.
I hear the calls from people who are at times like feeling suicidal because they can't sleep.
Mm.
I just feel like I really need to do something about it because I know that this works, and we can't leave people in these states.
Mm.
It just feels like a real mission that I've got to continue with.
Um, you kind of touched on it almost. The word that sprang to mind when you were describing what it feels like sometimes to do what you do and have done it for such a period of time, and sort of question yourself, is that imposter syndrome? But I imagine over a period of time, I certainly get that impression hearing you speak that you've overcome that imposter syndrome now, that you feel credible. You feel, actually, I've done it. I've been there. I've answered the problems and I've got the solutions. So I don't need to feel that anymore. Is that true? Or do you still get those moments of imposter syndrome?
Um, I think sometimes I get the moment of what on earth are you about to do? Like when we're in the House of
Right.
Commons and I'm about to give a speech, and I'm like, this is like weird, surreal dream that I'm having.
Yeah.
But I can actually define the moment when I overcame the imposter syndrome.
Mm.
So we won the GSK Impact Award several years ago now. It was probably 2018, 2019. And the assessment process was really, really tough. Like,
Mm.
could not believe how tough it was. And I got invited to, it was like a workshop for a couple of days with the other winners. I think there were 10 organisations in total. And I can just remember thinking, they're all going to have proper CEOs. And then there's
Mm.
me. And I've just made this up as I've gone along, and I don't know what I'm doing. And it was just awful. And I was considering resigning because I thought the charity deserves a proper leader, a proper CEO.
What
And
year
then
was this, Vicky?
I think it was about 2018, maybe
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got down to London with all these negative thoughts, and yeah. And I sat in the room and I started to listen to other people speak. And I think probably at the end of day one, I thought, who out of here would I choose to be the next CEO? Who can do it better than I can? And I thought, well, actually, no,
Mm.
I'm
Mm.
good enough.
Mm.
I've got the sleep knowledge. And
Mm.
what I started to realise is some of those have been employed into these positions, and actually I've developed this, I've made this. And that was
Mm.
something I suddenly started to feel really proud about. And I've not made it perfectly, and I've made huge mistakes along the way. Um, but I decided it was just that moment, and I just thought, no, I'm carrying on
Mm.
because I am good enough. And
Mm.
I think maybe if the charity continues to grow, there'll be a point where I go, I want to hand it over, because I also think you shouldn't become precious about your charity.
Yeah.
I think you can get founder syndrome where, you don't
Mm.
want anybody to do anything with your charity. And
Mm.
I really work hard not to have that. because
And that takes a great deal of humility, doesn't it, to do that? I think it's and it's understandable why you'd have it. You created this thing, you fought for it. When I have these interviews, there are always these magic moments in the conversation, and the way you just describe what happened around your sudden sense that actually I am good enough is quite a magic moment and transformational in so many ways, and inspirational as well. It just sends out a good message to anyone who's aspiring to kind of take on a position that you've taken on from the ground up. You've built it from the ground up, which is just something, hats off to you, and thank you for being vulnerable enough to kind of describe that, because it's really really fascinating. I think that whole process. I'm going to move on just slightly, bringing the Sleep Council into the conversation. So you brought that into the charity, and that was obviously a big move. Can you talk about what the Sleep Council is, and what did that enable you to do that you couldn't do before, if you're happy to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So, I talked about the rebrand and how we became the sleep charity.
Mm.
So what I'd recognised is that when a child has sleep issues, the parents do as well, as I well knew. So we needed to start addressing adult sleep. And there was an organisation called the Sleep Council, which is where Lisa, my deputy, was working at the time. And there was the opportunity for us to be able to sort of merge, or the Sleep Council were going to go off and develop their own charity. That's sort of the conversations that were going on behind the scenes. And I thought, actually, if we can bring the Sleep Council in, then we can be stronger together. So I'm a big believer in the fact that we should be working in partnerships, not sort of as enemies, if we've got similar missions. So we decided to take over the Sleep Council, and part of that agreement was that we got Lisa as the deputy, which is amazing because she's got all the adult sleep knowledge, which really complements the stuff that I was doing with the children. But also we were asked in some way to continue the legacy, if you like, of the Sleep Council. We decided that what we would do is to have this volunteer advisory board, and we would put an ad out for professionals to apply, and we wanted 8. Actually, I think we got applications for about 30, and real high quality people as well. So I'm not exactly sure how many we've got on there to date. I think it's well over 20 members of the Sleep Council. But what they do is they sort of have an overview of the work we're doing, and they've all got specialisms in very different areas. So, for example, we've got paediatric specialists, we've got educational specialists, we've got a nutritionist. So a real wide overview of all the different demographics that kind of make up the issues that our beneficiaries come to us with. So they're a real asset, and I'm so grateful that they give their time so voluntarily when they're incredibly busy people as well.
So thank you for that, Vicky. If you could wave a wand and get government or NHS to do one thing differently around sleep, what would it be?
It'd be to invest in it. So to invest in sleep education and sleep support, because it could solve so many issues for, in terms of well-being. Yeah, that'd be the one thing. It's the investment into it.
Right. And when you're trying to get schools or employers to take sleep more seriously, what actually works? What have you learned about making the case for sleep to the people that you're supporting and serving, but those that perhaps need a bit more convincing?
I think quite often we find that there's one person within those organisations that have had sleep issues and really get it.
Mm-hmm.
And you just need a champion in each area
Mm-hmm.
who has experienced it for themselves or has seen the difference that our work makes. That's really powerful as well. And then sort of advocates for the work, can really understand the difference, can really explain how life-changing, getting sleep back into either a child's life or an adult's life is. It's just transformational in so many ways. I mean, you can physically see differences. I remember one teacher saying that she thought a child in a class had got Halloween makeup on, and it wasn't. It was so sleep deprived. His appearance completely changed once we got him back sleeping again, which is just a joy, to learn about.
Can you share an example of a partnership, or like a school or business or health service, where you've really seen what happens when an organisation does get it around sleep? Are there any specific examples that you're able to talk about there?
Yeah, there's loads.
Mm.
I mean, we've just done a really powerful project across South Yorkshire with NHS staff.
Hmm.
So we got a pot of funding to develop support around sleep issues for women,
Mm.
unpaid carers, and shift workers,
Right. Okay.
which is a massive one.
Mm.
And we also looked at sleep posture because we recognised that actually, there was a lot of staff sickness because of like bad backs, bad necks, and the way that we sleep position wise is really important too.
Hmm.
So we worked with a company called Levitex
Mm.
to develop some webinars, but also to deliver some one-to-one support to 100 staff across the NHS in South Yorkshire.
Hmm.
And we were able to get some evaluation of that work from Professor Caroline Horton from Lincoln Uni
Hmm.
as well, and show the difference that it made. And that, I mean, the NHS just really embraced it.
Hmm.
Everybody was on board with it, sharing the information that we're producing, and we've got another meeting next week to discuss, where we're going to go next with it, because we did end up in the final of the HSJ Awards, which are like the massive national awards for the NHS.
Hmm.
So we actually won the partnership award at the Doncaster Business Chamber as well for
Oh
that
wow!
project. So
Congratulations.
yeah, it's really nice to get some sort of like award and recognition,
Yeah,
for the work you've been doing too.
absolutely, and to
Um,
celebrate it as well. I think yes, really, really
Yeah,
important.
yeah. So, that's one example, and the family hubs in Doncaster would be another. So we've worked with them for several years, but more recently we've been doing a sleep poverty project. So we've
Okay.
developed bedtime bags for families to help to give them some vital items that they may need alongside things like beds, because increasingly we've got children who don't have a bed to sleep in.
So there's an overlap there, isn't there, between poverty and deprivation and lack of sleep? I'm assuming you see patterns and trends there, across different demographics where sleep deprivation aligns with personal circumstances as well. All different personal circumstances, not necessarily related to poverty. That's
Yeah,
really
it's
interesting.
I'll tell you what's really, really interesting about it. It goes through every demographic.
Mm.
So we have worked with the most deprived families,
Mm.
but I also used to go and train Norland nannies, which are the nannies that royalty have.
Right.
And the sleep issues are just as severe,
Yeah.
but they are so very different. It may be because they're traveling through different time zones constantly,
Mm.
or
Mm.
the house is extremely large and the child feels isolated in one part of the house. So very different sleep issues,
Mm.
but still sleep issues that
Mm.
affect, physical health, mental health,
Mm.
etc.
Yeah, because we all have to sleep, and we all have these different challenges that we're and situations that we're put in that can affect that. I think interesting you mentioned around shift work, because obviously you talked about if it's dark in your room, then you're likely to sleep better. I suppose if you're working a shift all the way through the night, during the night, in the dark, or under fluorescent light, and then you try and go to bed during the day, and you've got daylight coming through your blinds or your curtains, that makes it very difficult to sleep.
Yeah, there's lots of challenges with shift work
Mm.
because you're working against your natural circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
So, even in terms of things like your digestive system,
Mm.
it's not you're not supposed to be eating overnight,
Of course.
but
Yeah.
we are doing. And there's also an awful lot of accidents that shift workers have coming home,
Mm. Right.
because they're tired, they're sleep deprived, and then the sleep patterns can get disrupted during the daytime, by daytime noise, the light. So
Hmm.
there's all kinds of challenges, and the stats on it in terms of what it does to your health are pretty depressing to read.
Mm.
I always find it hard if I'm doing shift worker training because you don't want to feed any anxiety about it, but it is not good for us,
Okay, for you.
at all. It's not what we should be doing.
Mm.
There are strategies that we can give shift workers to try to support them to get a better night's sleep,
Mm.
but it is it's just not good for our health and well-being in the long term.
No. And for someone who's listening who is exhausted right now or exhausted tomorrow morning when they finish that shift, what are one or two small realistic changes that you'd suggest they try first without giving, your full pack of cards away on the podcast?
Yeah, so it's like getting your do not disturb signs up, getting your earplugs, your eye masks out, and trying to get back into your normal sleep pattern as soon as you
Mm-hmm.
can come off your shift.
Mm-hmm.
It depends what sort of shifts you're on as well, because it's like different shift patterns going on across the country. But we have got information on the website as well for shift workers. It's a really important sort of one for us to address.
Great. And how do you avoid sleep advice becoming sort of, for parents in particular, just another pressure or a source of guilt for already, no doubt, overwhelmed parents? I'm one of them, so I do understand that perspective. How do you provide that information in a way that doesn't overwhelm them?
Well, for a start, I always like our services to be self-referral.
Hmm.
Not not every funder will agree to that,
Hmm.
but I believe that families know when they need the support and they know when it's the right time.
Hmm.
And I feel that when we refer families as professionals,
Hmm.
they sometimes arrive with us and it's the wrong time for them. They may be going on holiday, they may be having an operation, they may be moving house, or they may just be at absolute capacity and surviving. So one of the first conversations I have with families is this the right time? Is this what you actually want?
Hmm.
This is the reality of it. This is what we're going to be doing. How much of this can you do?
Hmm.
Is it just a tiny bit, like tidy the bedroom and move the toys or distractions? Or are we going the whole shebang? Because we want it to be an empowering experience. We don't want to be telling them this is what you must do.
Hmm.
I think it's so complex. We've got to be looking at parenting styles as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So it's about having a partnership with us and us being really respectful that parents are the experts on their children.
Hmm.
And I always say I will tell you lots of things about sleep, and some of it you'll just go, that won't work. That's fine.
Hmm.
Don't do it. Take the pieces of information I give you that may work
Hmm.
and tell me what they are, and we'll put that together for you so that they feel in control.
And obviously, there's a reverse to that because obviously your teams are working with people whose sleep problems are often quite complex and years long. So, how do you protect your own and your team's well-being whilst doing all of that? Because that's an important element for sustainability from a charity's perspective. Is that right?
Yeah, so we have regular supervisions.
Hmm.
I think it's really important to have that space to be heard,
Hmm.
and because you are dealing with other people's problems,
Hmm.
doing a lot of listening, and the type of person that this sort of work attracts means that we really care, and
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard to switch that off.
Hmm.
Also have an open door policy, so like the team know that they can always get me on WhatsApp,
Hmm.
and if they're struggling, it's important that they do,
Hmm.
because you know we don't want people to be taking things home. You've got to look after yourselves. It's all that
Hmm.
thing about pouring from an empty vessel, isn't it?
Yeah.
That actually, if we're going to continue to look after our beneficiaries effectively, we've got to be well looked after.
Hmm.
So they've always got somewhere to come and somebody to talk to if they need it. And at points we've had, external help from counsellors, etc.
Hmm.
If it's sort of gone down that path.
Thank you. Were there moments in sort of the early days of running the charity, or even more recently, when you've wondered if the charity would survive? And what is it that gets you through that, gets you out of bed in the morning, and gives you that impetus to just keep going and keep doing things? Because that, even in the short space of time, our moods can change quite regularly, can't they, in terms of how we feel about different things? Are you able to sort of reflect on that and sort of tell me what that's been like at certain points?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose lockdown was like a big panic. Because as I said earlier, like the funding just disappeared,
Hmm.
and I ended up furloughing everybody apart from myself.
Right.
And what happened was like the referrals just went sky high because
Of
people were
course.
out of routine, people were
Mm.
worried, and there I was on my own. And I wasn't sleeping either because I was like, I
Okay.
don't know what
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
What do you do? Do you sit it out, or do you do what I actually did and start to look at moving it to a digital offering? Thank goodness I did that because that
Mm.
probably saved us.
Hmm.
And we then had the best financial year we've ever had.
Wow.
Uh, at that point. The last few years have been really tricky,
Mm,
like really difficult in
mm,
terms of trying to get funding.
mm,
And I suppose every financial year, so like this time of year, because we're like end of year is March,
mm.
I look at it and I kind of go, well, I've got to find about £650,000
Right.
in the next 12 months to keep us just where we are. And actually, I know just where we are is not good enough in
Mm,
terms of the needs that are out there.
mm.
I suppose I have trained myself to call it an exciting challenge
Yeah,
because if I looked at it any other way, I would just go, I can't do it. It's too
yeah.
much pressure.
So it's a mindset.
Yeah. But my planning brain is always at least 12 months ahead. So
Okay.
I think this is part of a good thing about ADHD that, when people say you think outside the box, I don't even have a box.
Mm,
So my brain comes up with like project ideas that are sustainable and replicable
mm,
for quite small sums of money. Like our workplace sleep ambassador program, I think we've got
mhm,
£2,000 to develop that.
mhm,
And then we go out and sell it to corporates,
mhm,
and it's an income generation sort of stream.
mm,
So I'm always like a year in advance of thinking this is what we're going to be doing, and this. So I've got the ideas in order to generate the income, and I think that's what interests me about it still as well.
mm,
It's a challenge. It's like you asked me earlier when people used to sort of go, no, you can't come in and do that type of thing. It's like,
mm.
watch me.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it
gonna
is
do
a
it. Yeah.
personal challenge
It's really
sometimes as well.
interesting. We had not so long ago a guest called Jordan Letts, who's the CEO of Northampton Saints Foundation, the rugby club in Northamptonshire. and and he has ADHD, and I think the way he articulated it was that it kind of almost like his superpower is actually what makes him capable and able to be a CEO for an organization which does have those demands on you from one day to the next. So do you see it in the same way? You see it, you've got a good relationship with your ADHD in some respects. You recognize the strengths
Yeah,
it gives you.
yeah, I wouldn't want to be without it.
Okay,
So it gives me the ideas. It's also a nightmare at
right.
times. So I
Mhm.
lose my car on a regular
You
basis.
lose your car.
Yeah, forget
Yeah, I
where I've
do that as
parked
well.
it, like you
Yeah,
do. I can't find my way from A to B. I
yeah.
might well be late. I try really hard to be on time. Um, so it has its downside,
Mhm,
definitely.
mm,
And it can restrict some of the stuff that I've done in the past. Like when I think about school,
mm,
I didn't well at school as
mm,
I done because my brain doesn't work in that way. Where they sit you in a classroom and you've got to do an exam for 3 hours. I was just like,
mm, mm,
no, don't think so. So it's had its like downside like that, but
mhm.
actually the way that my brain works is perfect for this sort of job because
Yeah.
it's so varied. There's always lots of different things, lots of different problems coming at me, and I'm
Mm,
great at solving like problems, like because I
mm,
can just see solutions through them. And I do a lot of mentoring as well for small charity leaders, and again, I
mm,
can see their problems and just cut through it. It's just the
mm.
way it works. So it is definitely a superpower
Superpower.
in that
Yeah,
respect.
that's great. That's really interesting. Has your own relationship with sleep, because obviously you articulated very clearly the challenges you had early on prior to starting the charity up, has that changed at all since founding the sleep charity? Has your sleep got any better, or are you having more sleepless nights now than you ever had before?
I don't think I'll ever have more sleepless nights than I had when I had my first son.
Mm,
I think my relationship with sleep is healthier because I understand it.
mm,
So, for example, I had some real sleep issues a few years ago
mm,
because my stepdad was really poorly, was terminally ill. I found I couldn't sleep because I was waiting for the phone to ring. And when he did pass, I ended up taking some sleeping tablets for a short period of time.
mm,
And actually, I was okay about that because
mm,
I know that it was a normal reaction to
mhm,
that situation that I was in.
mm,
Whereas before, I think I would have probably been, "Oh, I can't take sleeping tablets, that's terrible."
mm,
Um, And it's recognising that in that scenario, I just needed it just to get a little bit of sleep and to get myself back on track.
Mm-hmm.
I don't panic about sleep. So if I can't sleep for whatever reason, I know it's normal that if you're excited, if you're worried, if you're scared, if you're too hot, if you're too cold, it's going to affect your sleep. So
Yeah.
I'm more relaxed about sleep, I would say. And I don't put pressure on myself to get so many hours sleep because I know that I am a night owl and
Okay, that's really interesting.
yeah, I probably need less sleep than most people as well because of the ADHD stuff.
Right. Okay. So how many hours a night do you get then? There's obviously, is there a recommended amount or is that nonsense? And if there isn't, what's your nightly sort of sleep? What does it look like?
Get more sleep in winter when it's
Mm,
darker,
mm,
less in spring, summer when it's
mm,
lighter, because even though I've got blackout blinds, blackout curtains,
mm,
eye masks, I'm really light sensitive
mm,
and I'm really noise sensitive. So the minute a bird tweets, I'm like, I'm
mm,
awake.
mm.
So I reckon I've probably got about 7 hours,
Okay.
and maybe less in summertime,
Mm,
but I don't feel tired.
mm,
It's not that I'm sort of waking up feeling like absolutely exhausted. I feel good.
yeah.
And in terms of like recommended amounts, this is so tricky because there's lots of stuff published about it, and then people
Mm,
get really stressy about it and go,
mm-hmm,
"I'm not getting sleep," and I go, well, "How do you know?" Because I've seen this table and it says I've got to go to bed at 10:32 and get up at 7:32 and all this rubbish.
mm,
And I'm like, no, it's how you feel. So, like, do
mm,
you feel well rested? Are you nodding off in the daytime?
mm-hmm,
You know, how are you feeling?
mm,
Or they're relying on their watchers to tell them if they've had a good night's sleep or not. And I'm like, that
mm.
no,
Does that add
like,
to anxiety a little bit when people are,
yeah,
and they're constantly
yeah.
reminding yourself about whether or not you've had the right amount of sleep? Yeah.
Yeah, and they're constantly checking it and looking
Mm,
at what they had a week ago and then panicking, and it's like, just take it off and just
mm,
think about how you actually feel,
mm.
um, rather than monitoring, measuring everything. Yeah, completely fuels anxiety.
Fascinating. Thank you. Are there particular routines or boundaries that you now protect that you wouldn't have thought about years ago, whether it's around your sleep or actually as a leader, as a charity leader? There's sorts of things that you go, actually, this is now my time or my space. This is how I'm going to work or operate. Any particular things that you've introduced over the years?
I think I'm getting better at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult, and I think working from home makes it difficult as well.
Does, doesn't it? Yeah.
'Cause yeah, I try to avoid the office
Mm,
when I'm not working because otherwise I end up coming in and then I might just come in to pick up a pen or whatever, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll just see what's going on the emails," and I think because I love my job so much,
mm,
sometimes it doesn't feel like work,
mm,
and I have to be really mindful about this 'cause, sometimes I might choose like, I'll be honest, I chose to do some work on Sunday because it's a project I'm passionate about,
mm,
and then I heard this voicemail going, "You're working," and I thought, "But actually I'm not, because I'm
mm,
choosing to do this
mm,
because I'm interested in it,"
mm.
um, which people may not understand, I don't know, but it was a joy to do the stuff I was doing.
Yeah.
I am more bounded about when I'm in the office and out of the office, because
Mm-hmm,
otherwise the lines blur at home,
mm-hmm,
and I could spend a lot of time sitting here and doing the work stuff just because I enjoy it, when actually it's not healthy to be doing that. I forgot what the other question was. Oh, about the sleep.
mm,
Yeah. So I try to listen to my body more
mm,
and to understand when I am actually tired, because I think in the past I've forced myself to carry on when I've been exhausted.
mm-hmm,
Kind of look at my dogs and go, right, they're never going to go, "We're too busy to sleep."
mm.
They listen to how they're
Yeah,
feeling and they
very
have a
much.
snooze.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I've got mine sleeping on my feet as you're speaking it.
Mine are asleep downstairs. So I have increasingly over the last couple of years gone, I'm too tired to do whatever,
Mm,
and recognise that I can't be rushing to London 3 days a week or whatever.
mm, mhm,
And I hate to say this, I absolutely hate to say it, but since I hit 50, I found things harder, like it is catching up a
Things
little
take their
bit as
toll a
well.
little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't do the same stuff as I could do. And at points, I wouldn't take my toil time back if I'd been away. Whereas I came back from London a couple of weeks ago and I literally went to bed and I went to the team, I'm really tired. I've just got back from London. I really just need to sleep. And if you can't do that in the sleep charity, where can you do it? But
Yeah,
it's
true.
important. It's
Yeah,
really important.
absolutely. You touched on going in and out of London perhaps three times a week. For potential funders listening, what does a meaningful partnership look like to you beyond just writing a check, or is a meaningful partnership all about writing the check? And what does meaningful partnership look like to you?
I love it when funders are really interested in our work,
Mm,
when they take time to get to know us, to understand what they are funding and why
mhm.
it's important. Um, I remember we had funding from John Ellerman, which was actually the funding that got me employed as the CEO.
Oh, right.
They
Who
they
was that? Sorry,
really
Vicky. Can you say the name of the organisation again?
Yeah, John Ellerman Foundation.
An Element Foundation. Right.
They took time to meet with me and to listen to my passion for what I was doing rather than
Mm,
just reading it on a paper application.
hmm.
And it's that sort of interest that I think is really important, so that I want funders to know that their money is being spent wisely
Mm,
and it's making a difference.
hmm.
I also want to be allowed enough room to be able to do the best I can with the money, because sometimes you feel a little bit like you're forced to go down a certain route
Yeah.
when you know that it might not be the best way of using the money for your beneficiaries.
Yeah.
So for that, I love the lottery because they're so respectful of the work that we do
That's
and
good.
so flexible with the way
Mm.
that they
It's
fund
nice to
us
have
as
that
well.
flexibility, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and we're constantly learning and our work's constantly evolving.
Mm,
And if you're in a 3-year relationship with a funder, you wanna go, "Do you know what? We did say we were gonna do that, but
mm,
actually we're learning that this may be a better way. Is that okay?"
mm,
And, that's really powerful relationships where you feel that you can go to the funder and say that, and that
mm,
they're not gonna judge you and go, "Well, why
mm.
why did you think it was gonna go in that route in the first place?" So the lottery are amazing for that as well.
Have you found that there are certain types of organisations, whether it is trusts and foundations or actually commercial partners and organisations, that are a particularly good fit for your work? And it may be organisations that don't realise they're a good fit for your work yet. But have you noticed some trends in the sorts of organisations that are partnering with you and that are providing you support that works particularly well? And if you been able to put your finger on why that is?
Yeah, so, I mean, traditionally, it's been like the mattress companies that have always
Of
been
course.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
obvious
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
We've got some great partnerships,
Yeah.
with, like, the mattress companies, the sort of
Mm,
bed companies, et
mm,
cetera.
mm.
But things are changing as well in terms of, like, digital offerings. So I've done some work recently with a corporate partner who do the sort of earbuds, to listening
Yeah.
to different sounds at night time. So it kind of is evolving, but I think there are so many products out there that promise this great night's sleep.
Mm.
And it can be things like scents. It can be, in fact, I was having a conversation about milk earlier. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, milk's a great sleep drink. Like, we should be working with like a milk company, and there's not many out there. So I should be looking that
Milk's
one
a good
up.
drink to get you to sleep, is it? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, calcium based. It's like cheese is a good bedtime snack as well, even though everyone thinks it gives them
Oh, really?
nightmares. Yeah,
So that's
it
why hot
doesn't.
chocolate works at night time then? Is that the science behind hot chocolate, or is that just a myth?
So hot chocolate, it depends what's in it, but like often it's got caffeine and sugar in it, so it's not great.
No, that's not good. Yeah, okay. I'll
Yeah.
come on to that. Funnily enough, we just reached the kind of main part, the end of the main part of the sort of formal questions, and we're moving in now to the quick fire round. You've answered the first question already which was, are you a night owl or an early bird? And you said you're a night owl. Interestingly for me, I've switched. I think I'm naturally a night owl, and I purposely switched my circadian rhythm so that I've become an early bird. And actually, it suits me now that I'm into that rhythm to do the early starts and get more done in my day. But you're a night owl, and have you ever tried to do the same? Have you ever tried to do the early? Because you can't be both. You can't burn the candle at both ends. Obviously, that defeats the object. Have you ever tried to do that, and has it worked for you at all to have sort of start early?
Yeah. So I think it kind of happens naturally for me anyway in the
Okay.
springtime.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so that will continue. It's usually around about another month before that peaks, and I'm up at like 5:30 in the morning.
Right.
And I actually enjoy it because
Yeah, me
I might
too.
go for a walk, a run. It's quiet, and I'll get a load of work done before all the emails start pinging in at me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And then I feel like I've got like my evening as well
yeah,
at the other end of the day. So yeah, I can switch around too.
yeah. And we just touched on hot chocolate, and then you mentioned caffeine. So, are you a tea or coffee drinker generally? And which one do you prefer?
Yorkshire tea,
Yorkshire
obviously, Yorkshire
tea, of
tea.
course.
Am I
Yeah, I've
allowed
got
to
some in my
advertise
collection.
Yorkshire tea like that?
And how do you take it? How should a Yorkshire tea be made to kind of, live up to the expectations that we all have of it?
Like builder's tea
Yeah,
is what we call it. So yeah, quite
yeah,
strong.
yeah.
Milk, no sugar. And I usually have it in a great big mug as well.
Okay,
So
okay, that's great. As opposed to coffee.
I'll drink coffee, but tea's where it's at.
So on that subject of caffeine, are there any particular rules around caffeine? I've implemented my own rule where I only have caffeine in the morning. I don't have caffeine beyond midday, purely because I want to get a good night's sleep. Is that the right thing to do? Is that another myth? Are there any sort of rules that you use yourself to ensure you get a good night's sleep?
Yeah, so caffeine is a stimulant. So for most people, it can disrupt the sleep. And
Hmm.
this is where the ADHD curveball comes in,
Hmm.
because with ADHD, they treat ADHD with stimulants
Okay.
if you're
Right. Yeah.
medicated. So I'm medicated and have stimulants, which helps me to
Hmm.
calm.
Mm.
And caffeine also helps me to calm.
Mm.
So I can have like full fat Coke and a black coffee before bed, and it's like,
Doesn't do anything. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing,
So
isn't it? So that is a myth then. For certain people, it's actually going against what could be helping you relax and then in turn go to have a good night's sleep.
yeah, so I just go, we're all individuals, and yeah, your rule for you is working, and it's the general advice that would be given, that type of
Hmm.
advice,
Hmm.
but it's how it affects you. It's knowing what it is that stimulates you. So, you know, for me, it wouldn't be the caffeine, but if there's a bit of light in the room,
Mm.
that's it. So it's knowing your individuality and
Mm.
and protecting your sleep based on that.
That's great. You mentioned that you have your own podcast. Is that still running, the podcast for the sleep charity?
Yeah, it's called
Yeah. So
Sleep On.
sleep on. The question was going to be, what's one book or podcast everyone in the charity sector should check out? I'm assuming you'll recommend that they definitely tune into your podcast. Are there any books or podcasts about sleep that you'd recommend to anybody listening or watching this episode that's particularly
Oh,
sort
there's
of
so many.
struck a chord
There
with you?
are yeah, there are so many sleep books. It depends really which aspect you're interested in.
Mhm.
There's oh gosh, I'll have to send you a list because there are
Yeah,
just so many
send us a list.
there.
I'll pop it on the podcast.
I
And if
will
it's on
do
your
because
website, you can point us in that direction instead.
yeah.
Nearly right at the end now. If you weren't leading the sleep charity, you talked about how much you love your job, which is so nice to hear. It's lovely to hear. I'm assuming, having heard that you love the work, your job so much, that you don't have any regrets. You wouldn't kind of wake up one morning and say, "I wish I was doing this." But if that weren't the case, is there another cause that you might champion as a CEO of a charity now that you've been a very successful charity leader? Any other causes that you
Um,
feel particularly strongly about?
yeah, I do some freelance work as well, and I only work with charities that like really resonate with me. And there's a couple in there. So one of them is domestic abuse charity that's
Mm.
local. and another one is around working with children with special educational needs and disabilities.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
And
and
that goes takes
yeah,
you
those
right back to the beginning, doesn't it? Where you started at the school. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And, when I was talking to the founder, he was like, "You really get it." And I was like, "Yeah, I
Mm,
do." And
mm,
that's why I want to work with those organizations, because I've got like lived experience of both of those things.
mm,
So I understand the issues that the beneficiaries may be having,
mm,
and I feel passionately about actually supporting them to improve their lives. So being able to offer some support around like the strategic sort of planning, the fundraising elements. And I see myself probably doing more of that as
mhm,
time goes by,
mhm.
with my eye on retirement at some point.
Yeah. It's interesting because you touched earlier on about the links between certain professions and careers and the overlap between poverty and deprivation and lack of sleep. And there seems to be a natural correlation between young people, perhaps with learning difficulties or not, and sleep. So there are so many areas of our lives where sleep is integral and overlaps with other challenges and issues that we might face in society. So it's really interesting, particularly with that one around young people. That's an area that you've got to share a shared interest, both with special educational needs and sleep.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
I think the other element that really draws me is sort of the outdoors as well, and
Nature.
yeah, nature. And I've done a lot of research around nature and sleep,
Mm.
and developing sort of sleep workshops out in nature, not overnight,
No.
but learning in that environment. And it's the whole reset thing,
Yeah.
like I said at the beginning, it's the going back to the basics of like the well-being, the sleep, the getting away from the hustle and bustle,
Mm.
and just having the calm time, like the
Mhm.
mindfulness, so important in this busy 24.
Completely agree. Final question. Reflecting on your own journey from lived experience to leading a national charity, what are you most proud of having built a charity from scratch?
That's a really hard question, because I think often I don't take time to reflect on that.
Mm.
It's almost like, that's a proud moment. Next, now what
Mm.
are we doing?
Yeah.
Because there just seems to be so much like to do. In terms of pride, it's the individual stories.
Mm.
Always, it's the difference that's made.
Hmm.
So thinking about one of the stories, there's a little girl from Doncaster
Hmm.
who we worked with, and her sleep became much improved, and she became our first sleep ambassador for young people. And she came along to a VIP event where she met the local MPs and got presented with the award, and it really helped her confidence
Hmm.
as well. And I felt an enormous amount of pride to see that we'd made a difference to that family's life. Yeah, that was a proud moment, along with lots and lots of proud moments. Like seeing our national conference, full, seeing the conference room
Mm.
full, and
Mm.
seeing really highly regarded professionals
Mm.
speaking at our conference.
Mm.
That's proud. Doing my TEDx talk was a terrifying but proud moment as well.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. So you can find that on YouTube, I imagine. Looking at the sleep charity,
Yeah,
Vicki Beavers on the sleep charity.
yeah,
Fantastic. I'm really pleased I asked that question because it's really nice to hear that level of pride in your own work, and rightly so. So if this conversation's resonated with our listeners, which I'm sure it will, and if they've been moved by it, where should they go to get more information? I'm assuming it's something with the name Sleep Charity in it, online.
absolutely. Yeah, it's www.thesleepcharity.org.
Org. Brilliant. That's fantastic. Thank you. Vicki, thanks so much for giving me your time today. We've gone over the time that we'd scheduled to have this meeting, but that just is testament to what a great conversation it was. Time really, really did fly for me there. That's so great conversation. Thank you. Thanks
My
for
pleasure.
sharing your story with such openness. I think what stands out for me is how you've transformed personal struggle into national impact, which gets to the heart of the question, which is what's your why? Whether it's a parent finally getting a full night's sleep, a workplace prioritizing rest, or a professional gaining tools to help families in crisis, you're making sleep a cornerstone actually of health, not a luxury. And that's really transformative work of high value. So to listeners, if Vicki's story resonates, whether it's the Sleep Charity's family support, workplace training, or the push for better NHS recognition, then do go and explore their work. Once again, it's thesleepcharity.org. see how you might get involved, support or access their resources for a better night's sleep or a better day's sleep. As always, if you're a charity leader who'd like to explore your own why on a future episode, then please drop me a line at earlybirdphilanthropy.com. I'd love to hear from you. And next time on Night Owl Philanthropy, I'm speaking with Josephine McCartney from the Childhood Trust, tackling child poverty and vulnerability across London through emergency grants, family support and partnerships that reach those most in need. Josephine's insights reveal how targeted giving can break cycles of crisis for children facing hunger, homelessness and trauma, and probably in turn a lack of sleep, as we touched on earlier. It's a compelling conversation about urgency, collaboration and the power of seeing every child as someone who deserves a fighting chance, especially vital if you haven't seen or spotted the Childhood Trust's work previously. Thank you once again, Vicki, for your time. I really appreciate it, and take care. Thanks.